Bay and other indigenous caretakers of these lands and waters, the elders who lived here before, the indigenous today, and the generations to come.
Thank you. Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. McDonald.
Here.
Ms. Peron-Lambros.
Here.
Mr. Cohen.
Here.
Ms. Sachs.
Here.
Ms. Fraga.
Here.
Mr. Newland.
Here.
Mayor Frida.
Here.
You have quorum.
Thank you. If you'd like to and you're able, if you could stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. What am I doing? Could you pass that thing, I guess? All right. First item up, we have a proclamation for National Library Week. We're doing it now because with the timing of the meetings, we don't want to do it too late, so it's always better to do it before than after. So indulge me while I read this, and thank you for representatives from the library and the library board for being here. Proclamation honoring National Library Week 2025. Whereas libraries spark creativity, fuel imagination, and inspire lifelong learning, offering a space where individuals of all ages can explore new ideas and be drawn to new possibilities. Whereas Princeton Public Library is a vibrant community hub, connecting people with knowledge, technology, and resources while fostering civic engagement, critical thinking, and lifelong learning. And whereas Princeton Public Library provides free and equitable access to books, digital tools, and innovative programming, ensuring that everyone in Princeton, regardless of background, has the support they need to learn, connect, and thrive. And whereas Princeton Public Library partners with schools, businesses, and organizations to share resources, increase efficiency, and expand access to essential services, strengthening the entire community. And whereas Princeton Public Library empowers job seekers, entrepreneurs, and lifelong learners by providing access to resources and opportunities that support career growth and economic success. Whereas Princeton Public Library nurtures young minds through story times, STEM programs, and literary initiatives, fostering curiosity and a love of learning that lasts a lifetime. And whereas Princeton Public Library was instrumental in efforts to proclaim Princeton a book sanctuary city, safeguarding the right to read, think, and explore without censorship, standing as champions of intellectual freedom and free expression. Whereas Princeton Public Library is the busiest public building in the municipality, welcoming an average of 2,000 people a day. And whereas the dedicated staff of Princeton Public Library provides welcoming spaces that inspire discovery, collaboration, and creativity for all. And whereas Princeton Public Library is a national model for programming, outreach, and fundraising that supplements taxpayer support. And whereas Princeton Public Library and libraries across the country are joining together to celebrate National Library Week under the theme, Drawn to the Library. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mark Frida, Mayor of the Municipality of Princeton, County of Mercer, State of New Jersey, along with the Princeton Council, do hereby proclaim April 6th through 12th, 2025, as National Library Week in Princeton. During this week, I encourage all residents to visit Princeton Public Library, explore its resources, and celebrate all the ways that libraries draw us together as a community. Thank you, Princeton Public Library. And you get the proclamation.
No, Jennifer, you get the picture. I'll take a picture. I'll take it. Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Now we're all going to get up, and we're going to move to the table here. President Eisgruber is going to join us, and we're all going to sit around the lower table and have a nice little chat. Okay, it's become something that we've done annually for a long time, even before you and I were here. Past councils and past university presidents have gotten together, and it's a great time for you to share with us an update and just thoughts in general. So, Chris, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Mark. And this is a tradition now, which I think has been going on for at least 12 years through my presidency, and one that I greatly value. So I want to begin by, first of all, thanking you for the opportunity to speak with you once again, thanking you for your service to our town, and thanking you for the relationship that I think we have right now between the university and the town, which I feel is very strong. And I think, Mark, you and I always make this comment. We're going to disagree sometimes about some things. I think we share a lot in common, and we agree about a lot more than we disagree about. But we disagree sometimes, and it's just important to have channels of communication open so that we're able to work toward constructive solutions wherever possible. I want to be brief because I always find the most valuable parts of these conversations are our exchanges and my opportunity to speak to your questions and hear your thoughts and ideas. I do want to say some things about where we stand right now as a university and where we stand as a sector of colleges, universities, and higher education in this country at the moment, a moment where I feel very fortunate to be here in Princeton, New Jersey, in the middle of this town and in this state. I want to start off with some of the things that I'm very excited about. That we are cutting the ribbons on projects. I think more than a dozen of them over a 12-month period right now. One of the ones that I am very excited about because it provides important connections between our town and the university is the art museum that we will reopen in October. I had a chance to walk through it a little more than a month ago now, at which point there was about one artwork hanging, I think, inside the museum, but they have been hard at work ever since, and even as we're putting the finishing touches on the exterior, a lot is going on inside of it. So it will be an extraordinary place for the humanities on the Princeton University campus. I hope it will be a kind of a leadership institution in scholarship for the humanities at a time when they are under threat in our nation and in the world. And it will be an important point of pride, I hope, for this entire community. One of the things that I always enjoy when I visit the museum, and that we've been very happy about with art on Hullfish and art at Bainbridge over the last couple of years, is the way that the museum draws people from all around the town into its precincts, and the way that it draws people to Princeton. So I'm happy to talk about our other projects as well, but let me turn for a moment to the serious matters that are confronting us right now. I have said in the pages of The Atlantic last week that I think that higher education right now faces a kind of crisis that we have not faced for at least 70 years. I date that back to the Red Scare. I think that if at least according to my dean of the college, Michael Gordon, who is also an extraordinary historian of science and somebody who knows a heck of a lot more than I do about the history of science and colleges and universities in the United States, he says this crisis is extraordinary across even a longer period. And for me, there are two facets of it which affect both what we do at Princeton University and more broadly than that, higher education in the United States, in a way that I think should be the concern of anybody who is interested in free thought, in high quality teaching and research, and frankly in the strength of this country. And I know that describes this council, so let me just say a bit about that. One aspect of these threats are just the various kinds of cuts that are being made right now or being threatened against research funding at our universities and beyond our universities, into the laboratories, for example, of the National Institutes of Health, which were the subject of a story in the New York Times this morning. But those cuts include threatened budget reductions. They include costs to the so-called F&A reimbursements, the facilities and administration reimbursements, or indirect costs that pay for laboratories, shared equipment, shared administration, and other very real costs of the research that we do at universities. They are threatened right now by the rescission of grants on particular topics. They're threatened by cuts to the staff of the National Institutes of Health and other agencies, so they just can't make grants. And the amounts of funding at risk here are very high. So just to give you orders of magnitude around what it is that we're dealing with on campuses at Princeton University, which is obviously a first-rate research university and does an extraordinary amount of high-quality research funded by the government. There's about $250 million annually in federally funded research. Those indirect cost recoveries amount to around $60 million. I'm using rough kind of order of magnitude numbers. Those are recurring numbers. They're annual numbers, not one-time numbers. And obviously, that's a significant amount, even in the context of a university like ours. Those numbers are much higher at some other universities. The numbers at Johns Hopkins, for example, for federally funded research would exceed $3 billion. And there are other major universities, especially those that have large medical schools associated with them, that would have over $1 billion or over $2 billion in federally funded research. So when one hears, and I mention all of this because one has these stories about what's going on things that sound very abstruse and aren't the sorts of things that everybody talks about every day, like indirect cost recoveries. Indirect cost recoveries from the National Institutes of Health at Princeton University would amount to $17 million a year, roughly, if you had the cut that was put into place and has now been stayed by a court injunction. That would have had a $17 million annual impact on our budget. It would have hundreds of millions of dollars of impact on some other leading universities. These are serious threats to what it is that universities are able to do. They're serious threats to the science and research that have made the United States a world leader in innovation, in healthcare, in technology. They have contributed to our prosperity and our security as a society. And if we care about the greatness of America, if we care about the strength of America, we should care about the greatness and the strength of these universities. And we need those funding streams to be strong across the set of universities that make a difference in American research. So that's one threat. A second piece of this, which was the focus of what I wrote about last week, is the threat to academic freedom, because this partnership between the U.S. government and American research universities that has so improved the strength of our country and so improved the quality of our universities has had many benefits. But one side effect of it is that universities have become dependent on this kind of funding, because in many ways what they are doing is they're advancing costs by investing in buildings and other resources on the promise from the government that they're going to be reimbursed for those costs. So they're vulnerable if that money is taken away. And presidents over decades from both parties recognize the importance of this compact between the government and universities to our country and to the health of education and research in our country. And the events at Columbia last week concerned me greatly because the government in its dealings with Columbia used the threat of removing grants and other research funding as a kind of cudgel to try to force the university to put into receivership one of its departments, to change the way that it did admissions, to potentially change the way that it hired faculty. That is a threat to academic freedom, which is another core, perhaps the foundational aspect of what it means to be a great research university or a great teaching institution. Universities have to be able to operate in a way where faculty members pursue the truth and pursue knowledge on the basis of disciplinary norms, not on the basis of what pleases people in power. And that is what is at stake if the government starts using its considerable resources to try to change that. So I was deeply concerned. I decided I needed to speak out as a university president. I have been pleased to at the messages of support that I have received, frankly, from citizens in the community, as well as members of the Princeton University faculty, student body, and staff. Our university is going to continue to stand firm for the principles that define our mission, and I think define the kind of constitutional commitment that we've had in this country to free teaching and research. So that's serious stuff, I suppose, but I just needed to share all of that with you because I think it is critical right now to what I think about every day and to what we are thinking about at the university. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Chris. Just start at this end and work our way down.
First, thank you for your recent essay in The Atlantic. It was timely and spot on. You're the longest-serving president in the Ivy League and are chair of the American Association of Universities. So you have a unique perspective on the challenges facing higher education, and we're grateful that you're willing to share them with us and also for your leadership in higher education. Many people in town like to talk about the university's endowment. So I'd like to just ask a question. Some people think that Princeton's endowment is a large discretionary source of funding that you can use for any purpose. Could you please explain why this is not true?
Yeah. So thank you for the question, Brian. Thank you for the reminder that I'm the longest-serving president in the Ivy League right now. That kind of makes me feel old, but you and I are classmates, so you know that's not true. We're incredibly young, and somehow I'll reconcile that math at some point. I appreciate the question because I think one of the things that I enjoyed as a student when the two of us were classmates, and I enjoyed as a faculty member, is that I never had to give a thought to the endowment. We want the endowment to support what it is that we do as a university, and we don't particularly need to have people thinking about the endowment, but we do now, which is why I so value the question. And I value it, and we need people thinking about the endowment now because the endowment is under attack. So another piece of the concerning picture that I painted a moment ago is that not only are revenue streams related to sponsored research under attack, so too are the revenue streams that come from the university's endowment. The university's endowment is a collection of and a product of the gifts that the university has received over time with a promise to steward them for the benefit of future generations. And I think, Brian, as you said in your question, people often regard the endowment as just something that stands off to the side, as though it were a savings account that could be used for rainy day purposes, like the current crisis that we're talking about, or that could simply be taken when the university wanted to do something like start a new institute in quantum science, which we are planning to do, or build a new art museum. And that misunderstands what an endowment is. An endowment is not like a savings account. It's much more like a retirement annuity. It needs to pay out every year in order to continue to sustain the purposes for which the gifts were given. So just as an individual's retirement annuity has to pay every year for as long as they live, so too the university's endowment has to continue to pay out for every year so long as the university exists, which for Princeton University, we hope it will be in perpetuity, basically. So we've got to manage that endowment in a way that it will always be there to support the university, its students, its faculty, our partnerships with the town, and the other things that we do at Princeton. It pays out more than 5% a year. So basically, we've got to make 5% a year. We've got to then have our friends at Princo, in addition to making that 5% a year, they've got to be able to produce enough to cover inflation. So let's take that at a low number and say it's 3%, and then they've got to produce something for everything new that we want the endowment to leverage, like our increased graduate stipends, for example, or improvements to our financial aid program, or other new projects, which means we've got targets up between 8 and 10% every year. And now what the federal government has done is in the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017 to put a 1.4% tax on those returns that we're using, basically to make sure that that annuity serves its purpose into the future. And now there's talk about taking that number up, again, as part of this, sort of combination of threats that we are facing right now. Some of the numbers being as high as 10%, some as being as high as 20%. I've seen other numbers quoted. This is another way that that if the government took those actions, it would undermine our ability to continue to support the affordability and accessibility of the educations we offer, and to ensure that the research that we are doing is at the cutting edge in the way that this country needs it to be. So you're going to see trade-offs at that point between protecting things like financial aid and being able to undertake new research projects. So for us, it's really critical that people understand what's going on with endowments and that we be able to protect that. I saw a story, at Columbia last week, what the government did successfully, as it turned out, right? But they took away $400 million, kind of threatened to take away more than that, and then laid down some conditions which I think were inappropriate, were intrusions on academic freedom. And I saw a piece in the New York Times. New York Times does a great job covering education. I don't want to criticize them, except this particular piece said, well, comparatively modest, $400 million. And I was thinking to myself, well, how can anybody take a number like that and say comparatively modest? And I think the two things they were doing is not recognizing that it recurs year to year, and secondly, they were making the mistake that you described about the endowment and thinking Columbia has a big endowment, how difficult is that for them to do? Well, if you're spending that endowment every single year on financial aid, on salaries, on graduate stipend, on research costs, that endowment is already committed, and these numbers are incredibly difficult for universities. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your comments tonight and your Atlantic article. We obviously are under assault on so many fronts right now, and as an elected official on the local level, it's really hard to focus on the task at hand. But I have to say that it gives me a lot of hope, all of us, I think, that we have a strong town-gown relationship. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of things, so they're not really questions, but I may ask for some comments. But one area of collaboration is on our transit, and I haven't had the opportunity to thank you and Hillary and Kristen in person, because I wasn't here last year when you were here. But we have a 5-year agreement, and one of the big things that we're trying to do is to really work together on a collaborative effort between us. We have 2 new EV buses coming this year. We want to expand our routes. So the work that we're doing together collaboratively with the consultants and our staff is really vital. I want to say a thank you also to Charlie Tennyson for always lending his expertise. He's very generous with his time with us and staff and consultants. We have a shared mutual interest in easing parking challenges, making our town more walkable, less car-centric. This is something we want to do together, and with welcoming new residents, welcoming more tourists as well with the new museum opening, and an expansion of the campus. It's really important and vital that we work together on this. So that's one highlight that I wanted to mention. And something else that's really a wonderful opportunity just around the corner is the 250th. So, we're working together with the university and some of our partners, Morven, the Battlefield, the library. I don't want to not mention people, let me just look at my notes. The Historic Society, Experience Princeton, our Special Improvement District, and that's just to name a few. Everyone creating events and opportunities, educational programming and such. So, it's really a vital piece for the university to be part of our shared heritage. And I think that there's just a general irony right now that we're celebrating the start and the revolution of our democracy while we are struggling to save our democracy. So I'd love to hear any comments you have on those particular initiatives that are so vital right now for our town and our hope for the future.
Well, thank you, Michelle, for those. comments, and thank you for your partnership around the initiatives that you described and others. I do think one of the keys to the success of our town gown partnership, and I agree with you, it's very strong right now, is the establishment of clear priorities where we can work together. I think we can do a lot together, and I think that partnership is thriving, but we can't do everything together, and so knowing what really matters is so important to us, and I think that 5-year agreement provides an excellent framework for us going forward, and focusing on transit in particular is something where I agree with, I think, every single thing you said about this, that is, we have strong shared interests around that topic. You know, the town of Princeton is a wonderful place to be, and we see that all the time. I mean, it is fabulous to walk out and just feel the energy on our sidewalks, and as you said, people from the town, people from the university, people from outside the town coming together. But that does mean that we all have to work together to make that manageable, and I'm glad that that has been a priority within the framework, and appreciate that. And I look forward as well to working with you around the 250th. It is yet another special thing about this town, that we have so much history that we can celebrate here and make it so personal. I had some visitors to the university today where I was able to take a moment and take them into the faculty room at the university and show them the Charles Wilson Peale painting of Washington at the Battle of Princeton, and point out to them that they were standing in the building that is underneath his elbow, which is pretty cool, right? And it's just not every town, not every university can be celebrating things like that, and I hope we can both celebrate the history and the ideals in the way that you describe. I got my start here in constitutional interpretation, which became my vocation and my career in Professor Walter Murphy's class back in, what was it, the fall of 1980, taking that course from him, and getting kind of what baptized into the Princeton School of Constitutional Interpretation. And the Princeton School maintains, among other things, there is a point to this story, the Princeton School maintains that you know, constitutions are not just machines that would go of themselves, to use a phrase that sometimes got applied to the United States Constitution. They are active forms of government that require constant maintenance. They require constant recourse to ideals. And from my standpoint, our obligation as citizens is always, and under any circumstances, to be reinforcing the principles of our Constitution and defending our democracy. So some days it can feel harder than others. Sometimes can be more trying than others. But it is an ongoing obligation that is presupposed by our Constitution rather than something that is foisted on us by the circumstances. So I hope that our celebration of the history together can also be an occasion for our renewal of our understanding of those principles, and let's work on that.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. In recognition of the sort of extraordinary challenges that we're all facing in the current environment, you know, usually we take this as an opportunity to ask you for stuff. I'm going to take a year off. And I had a couple of things I wanted to say. First of all, I did want to thank the university. I've had the opportunity this year and last year to be a guest in a couple of classes on campus, one about ethics and public policy taught by Professor Barbara Buckings, and another one on affordable housing, a seminar on affordable housing taught by Aaron Shkuda. So I just want to express my gratitude. It's been a wonderful experience for me, and I think it's a good demonstration of the partnership going two ways across Nassau Street, contributing in both directions. And then I wanted to ask a question about, you know, we've been talking, I think since I've been on council, about the importance of diversity of opinion, respectful dialogue. It's something that's you've always demonstrated a great devotion to and is of concern to me. I know that your faculty is diverse in terms of political viewpoints, and all kinds of other things. And the question is whether that helps at all in this moment, whether Princeton is less a target because of the openness to all points of view on the faculty.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, it was lit, but it wasn't lit enough. It did seem lit to me. So both for the comment and the question, just on your initial comment, I'm delighted to hear your positive reviews of those faculty, and I hope you've let them know of your appreciation for their excellent teaching. I do think it is wonderful that we can have that flow both directions across Nassau Street, and I'm so appreciative to the council, frankly, and to the town for welcoming that. There was a time, I think, when people felt they were crossing a boundary. Now I feel like it's part of a shared neighborhood, and that's really important. On your question, I think it's fundamental to universities, and as you said, we've discussed this before, but it's fundamental to universities to have respect for viewpoint diversity, to have conversation across lines, and to foster civic argument that is constructive in a time when lots of people have trouble engaging in constructive civic argument, right? That is harder in our country right now than it has been in the past. So I think having that on our campus helps us, and I think it may help us. I have some, I don't know what, agnosticism, trepidation about trying to say, well, does it help us not to be targeted in some way? I just don't know. Things could happen at any point, right? An investigation could happen. Something else could happen. So I don't know how to answer that question. I do think it helps, is one of the many things that helps create a stronger community on the campus, and I think that's good for us, even above and beyond what constructive exchange does for scholarly and educational purposes. So one of the things that has dismayed me as I looked at some other universities is at times the folks there seem, metaphorically speaking, to be shooting at one another at times, right? Their community is under intense pressure from the outside. And one would hope they would all be standing up together and saying, hey, whatever else is going on, we care about this place, it's special to us, it's meaningful. And instead, they seem to be dividing against one another at the same time that they're trying to deal with some external threats. I feel like we have much stronger community on the Princeton campus, and I think a tradition of civil discussion and conversation helps with that. So, I can't be sure, but I think it is helpful to us, and it does mean that we have a tradition of having conversations not only on the campus but beyond the campus with various people who may disagree with parts of what we do, but still can feel genuine respect for the place. And that's what we need, right? We need people to be able to respect institutions even if they don't agree with everything that's going on, even if they're pretty upset with some of the things going on, and having those conversations across differences helps with that. And I do appreciate, last thing I'll say, I appreciate your forbearance on we are dealing with things like, a soft freeze on our faculty hiring and other things that we're doing. I said to one of our graduate student leaders the other day, came into me with a set of proposals and so on. I said, well, I'm not really in the budget additions mode right now, but I am in the creative solutions mode. So I do think one of the things that we can continue to do is, and the collaboration around history may be a good example of this. There are times when we can do things creatively within existing envelopes that make things better for both of us. But thank you.
No, please.
So we spent some time with Hillary and Kristen, quite a few years actually, working on a framework of shared priorities, and they involve things which in the current moment seem, while important, just a little bit more mundane, things like transit and housing, and all of which are very important to Princeton. But given what we're facing as a country, I'm just wondering how we could translate that framework of shared priorities and into a framework for maintaining the culture and the fabric of our civil society and in Princeton as an example for the country. And I guess the corollary to that is that many years ago when I was in college and graduate school, which was about the same time as you were, it was a time of...
You're very young.
It was the fall of the Soviet Union, and I did quite a bit of graduate work on the emergence of civil society in the countries of the former Soviet bloc. And, it was a time of hope and potential, and I, as I'm sure you feel now, could never have imagined observing what in this country, what we're observing on a daily basis now. And I do daily try to think about, the people who what they accomplished in those countries at that time. Anyway, so just to come full circle, sometimes it does seem like a focus on local politics, and it seems almost trivial compared to the struggles that are going on in the country as a whole. But I do know that civil society is built within every community with schools and houses of faith and, first and foremost, universities. So how can you inspire us in our own little world here to try to fight for the preservation of civil society?
Look, thank you for the question. What I would say is I think you, the council, our town, our community do that very well, and we should continue pressing ahead with what it is that we are doing. So let me be a little more specific about that. First of all, just on the mundane, I mean, part of what we have said to our own community is that everybody needs to continue to persist in their mission and to continue to do the things that we always do as a university and not always be distracted by the turbulence or tumult that may exist in the world and that might otherwise make it difficult for us to do those things. So, and I think that applies with regard to the town as well. Our shared priority around transit, for example, is mundane. I agree with you about that. But on the other hand, if you care about civil society, you need to care about transit. We need to continue to make people's lives better for them. The kinds of conversations that you do and the kind of leadership that you provide to a town and working out these problems about how people's everyday lives go better, that is the essence of our civic institutions, that is the essence of civic democracy, and having those discussions in constructive ways is really important. I was listening, Mark, as you read out the proclamation earlier about the library, and I was thinking, well, of course, everything Mark is saying about this and what our library does, it's one of those civic institutions as well that preserves the kinds of values that we care about, enables all of us to work together as citizens, contributes to the ability to read and to make community. So I think you said it in your question, right? These civic institutions are the core of our civic life, and I would say what we need to do is to continue those and to continue. Here's the one thing maybe I can add to all of that. I think what is really important in these times is to know what it is that we stand for and to stand up for it and be willing to speak for it, to speak for what we care about, for the good that we see in our society, and everything from universities to libraries to town council meetings to the other aspects, houses of worship, you said, to the parts of the law profession, right? The legal profession and the right of every person to have legal representation, even when the causes are are unpopular. That's speaking up for a set of values, and there are times these days when I'll talk to somebody and it's ask me what's the point of speaking up for those values. We have to speak up for those values because you can't maintain those values unless you speak up for them, and people have to know that there are folks who care and stand for those values, and then continuing to care for those who are less well off among us. So these are all things. I don't think I have a great answer to your question, Mia, mainly because I think this council does these things well, and far from being distracted, I think we should recognize that this is a time to double down and speak up.
I think you always have great answers, you do. But I just also wanted to say I hope you know that we feel very supported by the university, and we hope that we can also make the university feel supported in our town, and you in particular. And thank you so much. Your article in The Atlantic, speaking out like that, really did mean a lot to us. So, yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. So I think everyone has already expressed, and acknowledged the uncertainty and the trying times that we're going through at this time, and our community feels it. And we're very, express frustration about what's going on and what's coming down from the federal level. And I think you said it very well too, as far as what we're doing at the local level. That's something that we can control. And not to say that we should still be very cognizant of what's happening at the federal level, and however we can to push back, and also but also mainly to assure our residents that for us, it doesn't change what our commitment for the services that we provide, and what we are committed to do for our community. With that said, I do want to, and it's not a question, it's a statement, to acknowledge and to express our appreciation and for gratitude and appreciation for the university, for the collaboration, and it's ever since I've been a part of council, which is going on 8 years, I've been very aware of how well we work together. Recently, I became aware that the university has purchased some, and this is just an example, some barriers for vehicles that are used for in case of emergencies or events, and that the university is going to allow the municipality to use them also for safety measures, and but also maybe on a lesser scale, but it's still very significant, how we are able to, on an ongoing basis, every year, to collaborate and work together, especially with the students, to build community. Just last September during Hispanic Heritage Month, in this room, we recognize and acknowledge a new group of students, the Los Tigres de Princeton mariachi students. Yeah. And I know since I first heard of them, they've been participating at community events, and like I said, building community. But it may be insignificant, but it just demonstrates to our community that we are, we're still continuing that we're all part of Princeton, and how well we work together, and that we're stronger together. And that's just, like I said, it's not a question, it's more of a statement. And that I appreciate the opportunities for us to collaborate, and I just look forward to seeing more of that.
So let me just express my thanks again. I will say the university, and I think I speak not just for myself or the administration, but for our faculty who appreciate this for the vast majority of them as their home, very literally, and for our, increasingly, as you say, for our students, really are grateful to the town of Princeton and appreciative of what it means to be able to live in this town and this community. I'm delighted by the examples you give about our students. I feel like we have a relationship. I mean, we often talk about it in terms of the shared projects that we have and shared initiatives and things like transit where we have shared interests. But there's also a kind of a flow of people, as you say, and as David illustrated as well, that binds us together in ways that I think are fantastic, and our students, in a way that really was not true when I took office as provost 20 years ago now. Our students like being in the town. They want these kinds of relationships. I'm so glad that you had Los Tigres de Princeton. We have had the mariachis perform for our trustees as well, and it's fabulous to see that kind of interaction with the students coming across. And frankly, it's fabulous to see all of you, I mean, members of the council at various kinds of events on the university campus, from our athletic events to artistic events, or some of our recognition ceremonies. So thank you for adding that to your calendars. I think when those kinds of interactions take place, they just make the collaboration all the more natural when it occurs. The other thing I want to do, because some of you have done this, but I do want to call them out, our Vice President and Secretary here, Hillary Parker, Kristen Abelgett, Melissa Mercuro from our Regional and Community Affairs Office, who do the extraordinary work to make this relationship as strong as it is. So I appreciate them as well.
Good evening, sir, and thanks for being here. I hope that you and the staff from the university can feel the love on behalf of myself and my colleagues, and I'm sure the mayor's right behind me. And what I wanted to share with you is I think that often we here at the town of Princeton do see the university as this big savings account where we can always tap on your shoulder and say, hey, we need this or we need that. But over the past week and a half, I think I, along with my colleagues and other people in Princeton, have felt sorry for the university. We see that the difficulties that higher education and academia are going through, and actually today I was going to come in here and give you a hug and ask you what could we do for you. But fortunately, I saw Kristen before I saw you. But what I also want to share with you is that I hope, even though we have this slowness in philanthropy, that we will look for other ways without money to collaborate and build on the partnership that we have developed over the past few years, over the past 10 or 15 years. And I hope that we will continue to look for creative ways, as you said, to build partnership. And I actually had it right here, opportunities for other creative ways to collaborate. So thank you, David, and also Letitia. But I do have a request, and I'm going to read it so I don't mess it up. President Eisgruber, trustees and members of the Princeton community. Tonight, I'm before you not to ask for funding, not to request a program, but to extend an opportunity to honor one of Princeton's own, a man whose contributions to both this town and this university are etched into the very fabric of our shared history. Tommy Parker is Princeton. A lifelong resident, a dedicated university employee, a champion for workers' rights, a leader in youth athletics, and a pillar of public service. Tommy Parker has spent his life lifting up this community. As a former president of the SEIU, he fought for the dignity and fair treatment of university employees. As a mentor, he guided countless young people, ensuring they had a path forward. As a Princetonian, he embodies the values that both this town and the university hold dear: commitment, resilience, and service to others. Now he faces the profound challenges of paralysis following his second stroke. I ask that we, as a unified Princeton, both town and gown, find a way to honor his legacy. Perhaps it is a building, a space, or a landmark on the campus that bears his name. Perhaps it is another fitting tribute that ensures his contributions are never forgotten. But in a place where we honor intellect, service, and leadership, we must also honor those who have quietly built the bridges between us. I urge you, President Eisgruber, and the university trustees, to consider how Princeton University can permanently recognize the life and contributions of Tommy Parker, a man whose impact deserves to be remembered, not just in words, but in a lasting way that generations will come to see and understand. Because when we talk about the greatness of Princeton, we must remember those who made it so, not just in lecture halls and boardrooms, but in the day-to-day work of shaping this community and advocating for its people. Thank you.
Thank you for that very moving appeal and your thoughtful proposal. So in the spirit, again, of working together, what I would hope is that you can connect with Kristen Applegate again and begin thinking about, as you put it in your proposal, what's the appropriate way for the town and the university together to think about this. You may know that we have a committee on the campus, which has been very, I think, imaginative and creative in terms of who it has honored, and recognized that it's not just about the people who are in boardrooms or at the lecterns that we want to honor. It's our staff, our alumni, undergraduates, graduate students, faculty members, leaders, for a lot of different reasons. And so we have the Council of the Princeton University Community, which actually met earlier this afternoon, has a committee, the naming committee, that considers those recommendations. That is a genuinely independent committee. I can guarantee you they're independent, because I have sometimes sent them suggestions, which they've been very polite about before telling me that they were going to do something different than what I had suggested to them. So I will say in advance is something where Kristen could help you get a name in front of them, but they operate over time and as I said, with independence. But you noted in your comments there are a lot of different ways that this objective might be accomplished, and so she can work with you to figure out what is the best way, given some of those uncertainties and constraints. I do want to say one other thing, which is I do feel the support and appreciation and love from this group. I appreciate that, and I want folks standing up for what matters in our town, our society, and at our university. But please don't feel sad for us, because I feel proud and excited about what Princeton University is doing right now. And I look, on the one hand, we got lots of challenges, right? But that is sort of the life of being a democratic citizen. It's certainly the life of being a university president. And as I look at, I get together and meet with our students and hear from our faculty about what it is that they are doing, and look at some of the new ventures that we got going. And I am filled with enthusiasm for that. So I hope you will share that with us too, because we have a lot to be excited about as the town of Princeton and its citizens, and as Princeton University.
We just want you to know we have your back.
I appreciate that.
A couple quick things. Thank you. Thanks, David. A couple quick thoughts. First of all, I want to express the thanks to be able to talk to people from the university pretty much at any time, be open and honest, and have people actually listen to you, comment back in the same way. And I just think that is an important part of our relationship. So you don't have to play games with each other. We can just say what we think, it's received, and we get honest feedback. So thank you very much for that. That is deeply appreciated and very important. My only comment that I'll make tonight is long-range planning. And I kind of feel at times that the university is so good at long-term planning, but perhaps misses, to the full extent possible, the input of how the community might react to things the university is thinking of doing in the future. So I would simply say that when it comes to thinking about where the students reside, where the students have their activities, as the university brings more innovation into the area and gets involved in innovation overall, you're Princeton University, we are the municipality of Princeton, we are always tied together. I think as elected officials, we always want to encourage and drag as much as possible to happen in a way that helps the community, the Princeton community, directly. And I don't care as much about West Windsor, Plainsboro, or the other places, to be perfectly honest. But anyway, I just want to keep that. I think it's an important thought to share. Yeah, anyway, go ahead.
Well, I appreciate that, and again, let me echo what I said at the beginning. I do think it's very important that we're able to have candid conversations with one another. We appreciate it when we get feedback, you know, and we appreciate the ability to be candid in response as well when we get that feedback, and those candid conversations make it possible for us to do well together. We are Princeton University in Princeton, New Jersey. We're proud of that, and we're always going to be Princeton University in Princeton, New Jersey, and that will bind us together, and just the proximity. People want to be in that center of activity. I also think in a way that is good for the town of Princeton as well as for Princeton University. We have, over the last decade especially, begun more and more to think of ourselves as a regional citizen, as well as a part of this local community. I think all of us should want this region to be strong. Not everything is going to get packed into the boundaries of Princeton, New Jersey, and I don't think we should want it all to be packed into the boundaries of Princeton, New Jersey. But I also think the more vibrant the region around us becomes, the better that's going to be. It's just going to throw off externalities, and I think all you have to do is walk down Nassau Street on a spring day, and you know that is always going to be the heart of the region. It's going to be the core. It's going to be activated, even if things there are going on around us. So I at least don't view all of this as zero sum. There's too much thinking about zero sum in our society today, right? I think about it in terms of win-win and forming additional relationships that make us stronger. So, and that's us collectively. So look, we got to do that the right way. You know, you're right. We got to think about the long term. We got to think about the shorter term. But I think if we keep those conversations that you described going, and we keep focusing on what are the good things that we stand for and that we share, good things will happen. And you know, if there are things that need adjustments will get made. Yeah.
Chris, thank you very much. I think having this yearly event is important.
I agree.
And we appreciate
I agree, and I really enjoyed the way in which several of you have stressed that, yeah, we have this yearly event, but it's not like we go off and be strangers to one another afterwards. On the contrary, so what's terrific is we have a yearly event, and then we have friendships that tie us together beyond that. And thank you, and I do want to say once again how appreciative I am of the support that I have felt so strongly this evening. Thank you. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks also to Team Princeton.
Okay, next up on the agenda is announcements and reports. So let's start up here with the council members. David?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a brief comment. I'm sure everyone's aware, about a week ago, we had another tragedy in town where a pedestrian was hit by an automobile and a few days later succumbed to his injuries. This was in a location by the library where it just should never have happened. Good visibility. It's kind of a mystery. But what I want to say about it, and you can see some posters down in front of the dais right now. Deanna Stockton, our engineer, actually reached out to DOT, not in response to the crash, but prior to that, because she had seen a nice poster somewhere, and she asked, could she get one? And they sent her like 19 posters. And they're great. They really convey a message that, you know, human life is priceless. And all of us, as we move around town, in our vehicles, cars, or even on bicycles, need to be conscious and really focus so that we, as much as possible, prevent these kinds of tragedies in the future. I've been working over the past years with the Vision Zero task force. Vision Zero is basically the philosophy that says that even one casualty is too many. And one of the things we put together was an explanatory video, and that is going to be going up on the municipal website in the very near future. I checked before the meeting to see whether it had gone up. It hadn't yet, but I encourage people to take a look. It'll be right on our arrival page, the homepage for the municipality, and take a look at the video and see if you can find some lessons for your own way of being in town.
Thank you, David. Other announcements or reports? Leticia?
Yes, and this is directed at, often I'm asked about from our residents who are interested in volunteer opportunities. So on this April 12th, so it's coming up in a couple of weeks, which is a Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Heinz Plaza, there's going to be a volunteer fair that is being hosted by the Princeton Food Task Force, which is organized by our Human Services Department. And this is an opportunity for individuals who are wanting to explore ways to support our community and find the right opportunity that they may be involved in. They can connect with our local food organizations, which include Arm in Arm, Princeton Alliance Church, Princeton Send Hunger Packing, Meals on Wheels, Catholic Charities, United Ways, and Share My Meals, among others. So it's just going to be a great opportunity to come to learn about the work of these organizations and how they may be involved.
Thank you. Other council announcements or reports? Okay, Deanna?
Thank you, Mayor. Jim and I both have a couple of announcements. On April 5th, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., we have our spring Shred Fest. We'll be joined again this year by Sustainable Princeton, who will be collecting items for upcycling. So if people are interested, they can check out the municipal website as well as Sustainable Princeton's website to see the materials that are being collected at that event. And I'll turn it over to Jim now.
I have a couple of items of good news. I sent memos out to the mayor and council on Friday evening, and I'd like to read them into the record so that the public is aware of them as well. The first one is about cell phone service upgrades. As you recall, back in May of 2023, there was a special meeting of council where Verizon and Crown Castle being a third-party provider of facilities, not actually a cell service provider, came and heard from the community and from council about the difficulties in cell service that we experience every day. So this memo has to do with the fact of the collaboration that has taken place between Verizon and Crown Castle. Since then, Crown Castle has submitted, since that day, 89 different applications to add or replace equipment, and most of those applications included Verizon equipment. We have approved 61 of those applications, and they have, as of last Friday, 44 new or upgraded facilities have gone on air. We have found that cell service has improved in a lot of different places. There is still room for improvement. Obviously, there are still 17 outstanding applications that have not been put on air yet, and then another 28 applications that are in the hopper. But we're working every day, and I just want everybody to know that it seems like a long time, 2 years. We've worked with them to get them through our process, but they also have to go through other regulatory processes, and each one of these requires power, electricity to be fed to them, so they have to work with PSE&G in getting power to these locations, and everything seems to be coming to fruition because a lot of these have come online within the last couple of months, 12 of them in the last month alone. So every day we get, or not every day, but at least once a week, I'm getting an email from Verizon informing me of the new ones that are coming online. The second item is that our food service, our food scraps drop-off program, which we started in October of 2023, was expanded earlier this month on March 5th. We added 3 more sites at Littlebrook Elementary School, Riverside Elementary School, and on General Johnson Road, which is the access to Johnson Park Elementary School. These new locations use a new container. They're called Metro Store bins for collection. They're locked. They operate hands-free. They can be unlocked using a keypad or an app on your smartphone. Once they're unlocked, the lid opens by use of a foot pedal, so nobody has to touch anything. They just simply dump their food scraps into the bin and walk away. The bin closes automatically and locks within 30 seconds. We've publicized this in the weekly council newsletter, and flyers have been provided to each of the schools to encourage participation. With only 16 days, less than 3 weeks after deployment, we had an additional 25 residents sign up for the program. We now serve 314 residents, with 17 using Johnson Park, 54 using Littlebrook, 55 using Riverside, 56 using Monument Hall, and 134 still using here at Witherspoon Street. The program's now diverting over 2 tons of food waste from the landfill every month. We deliver it to Trenton Renewables instead of sending it to the Mercer County transfer station. Trenton Renewables takes the food waste, converts it to a biogas for energy production, and the remaining solids are used as a soil amendment for farming. The cost of processing it at Trenton Renewables, it does cost us money. It's $65 per ton. Solid waste tipping fees this year are now $135 per ton. So we're saving $70 in tipping fees for every ton that we divert. I'm happy to report that we get a lot of positive feedback finally from the residents. The new collection bins are a big hit, and we'll wait a couple of months probably, and we hope to expand the program to 12 total sites in the municipality over the coming months. Most of this is paid for through a grant from the United States Department of Agriculture. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Deanna. Michelle?
Jim, thank you. I just have a question. This is really great news about Crown Castle. Would it be possible, because we get a lot of complaints, would it be possible to kind of have an update of where the 89 equipment replacements are going to take place, what has taken place? Is that possible? Kind of like you give us construction updates. Is it possible to get some Crown Castle updates? Or is that...
Yeah, I provided you a map of those that are on air, of the
Okay.
new ones that are on air. I can provide a map of the ones that are either approved and not yet on air, or the applications that we have in. I
Yeah,
can
that-
put
that
that in a
would-
memo
yeah.
to Infrastructure and Operations Committee? Does that sound
Yeah.
all right, or do you want it to Mayor and Council? And report in 2 weeks?
I mean,
3 weeks.
I think everyone gets, various complaints from various neighborhoods, so it's probably be very, very productive for everyone to have that information at hand and then updates periodically,
Okay.
if possible. Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
That would be great. Thanks.
Okay. Any other announcements or reports?
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question regarding Mr. Purcell?
Sure, go right ahead. Just come up to the microphone, identify yourself, and ask away.
Hi, Seth Melman, Riverside Neighborhood. Jim, I was just curious, does it only apply to Verizon carrier, or in other words, T-Mobile, AT&T? Could you just fill us in that regard?
Sure. Crown Castle, as a third-party provider, leases their equipment and their poles to the cell service providers. A lot of these, Crown Castle has historically leased their space to T-Mobile. It was only after the May 22nd, 2023 meeting that Verizon and they started collaborating. So a lot of the new facilities that are going in are both T-Mobile and Verizon. Some are simply Verizon, some are simply T-Mobile, but there's a combination going on. AT&T, on the other hand, typically puts in their own facilities, and as far as I know, that we don't have great communication with AT&T, but I think the last I heard from them, they had no more plans to put in any more facilities in Princeton.
Great, thank you.
Okay. No other comments, questions, announcements, reports? Terrific. Next up is public comments for items not on the agenda. If anybody in the room has a comment for something not on the agenda, this would be the time to do that. Correct. Now is not on the agenda. Okay. Anybody online that has, anybody on Zoom? I see no hands up. I'll close that part of the meeting. And next up is, I'm sure, going to be a very exciting presentation on kiosks. Can't wait.
I'll do my best, Mayor. Okay. Let's see. Good evening. We are returning again to discuss kiosks. We were last here before council at the end of October to start the public dialogue about the kiosks in Princeton. I've left up on the dais with the mayor the examples of the documents that are commonly posted on the kiosks. These are the documents that were removed last month when DPW cleaned them up. So please feel free to take a look at them and investigate what is published up there. So again, we currently have kiosks in 2 locations, Van Deventer and Nassau, as well as Witherspoon and Nassau Street. These were both installed in the late 1980s as part of a streetscape project, and they started their life as public phone booths and newspaper box kind of receptacles. And then over time, as those items phased out, took on different forms, it became a place where the flyers and various information could be posted. As we mentioned in the October meeting, we have a capital improvement project to replace the sidewalk material on Nassau Street. When we do that, the idea is that we would replace all of the sidewalk under the kiosks as well, and that was the reason why we came to council initially, was to get approval to remove the kiosks to allow for the construction to happen. Because these were installed and constructed back in the 1980s, the sense is that they will not be able to withstand a removal and replacement. And so that's why we're here having the next dialogue is, what can the kiosks be? We are proposing to put 1 kiosk back at Van Deventer and Nassau and see how that goes in the rollout before we look at other options. The Witherspoon and Nassau Street corner has become very congested with the new traffic signal equipment that has been placed there by DOT. And so a kiosk the size that we currently have is a little bit unmanageable in that location. And the real estate that we have at Van Deventer and Nassau is larger. And so it can accommodate the kiosk much better and allow for people to mill around and look at the information that's provided on it. So in the presentation that you have, we've put together just some ideas of what kiosks could look like. This is not prescriptive that this is what we are proposing. This is merely put in so that there is a visual representation for you to consider. So we currently, like we said, have an 8-sided kiosk. It takes up a 6x6 square area. Depending on the location and what council would like to see happen with the kiosks, it can be customizable to pretty much any size. You know, something could stay a 6x6, it could become smaller. In this case, we presented just a 2-sided kiosk. We've heard some feedback that the sides that are closest to the roadway are less viewed just because it is closer to the roadway. And so a 2-sided kiosk, if you were to put it perpendicular to Nassau, takes care of that issue. You can expand the 2-sided to be a 4-sided. You could have a 6-sided. So we wanted to just show that, you know, in 2025, there are options. If you chose not to replicate the kiosk as it currently exists. There has been a proposal from Experience Princeton of making a portion of it electronic. We're not here to discuss that tonight. We need to do a little bit more investigation with Experience Princeton. Our understanding is that it's really going to be more of a wayfinding application to have the electronic sign, that it would take the place of a static map. So if you're looking for a destination in town to visit, you would be able to use the electronic version of a map to do that. So another thing, like I've said before, is we can completely customize it and talk more in the future about the electronic version. I've also thrown in, since this was put on the council agenda packet, some other options about 6-sided kiosks. So again, it's a little bit closer in replicating what we have currently. Different visuals, different ideas. We are a town full of architects, and I am sure there are probably 1,000 different opinions of what a kiosk could look like. And depending on how the Infrastructure and Operations Committee directs us, you know, we can welcome those discussions. But this was my very crude opportunity to do a rendering of what a change could look like if you take away our 8-sided kiosk and replace it with something smaller. We also have the opportunity, because there is a lot of space, albeit some of it is owned by the University and Garden Theater, there is an opportunity to shift it around on the corner, because, you know, we also want to add in street trees, bicycle parking, you know, so we want to really think about what other amenities we want to provide to the community in addition to the kiosk. So that's really it. Again, like I said, we're going to continue to work with Experience Princeton to explore what their ideas are for an electronic kiosk component, and look at different kiosk concept renderings. So if there is any feedback that council can provide regarding size, shape, locations, we would love to hear it now. Thank you. Yes, David?
So as an architect, I have at least 3 different opinions just by myself. Now, I do like the 2-sided option. I think that the reasons you explained about certain sides of a multi-sided one not getting viewed anyway makes sense to me, and to have it take up less space on the sidewalk is good. I do have concerns about the electronic. You know, the more moving parts, the more opportunities for something to break down. So I would want to see a real convincing demonstration of value added by having it be electronic rather than just a nice static map. Those are my thoughts.
Thanks, David. Michelle, did you?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Deanna. That was very good. I just want to see, do you want us to give some feedback as to 2-sided, 3-sided that tonight? Do you kind of need direction in that way, or just in general whether or not we like the mix of analog and electronic? I just wanted to see kind of what direction you'd like. I mean, personally, I think I'm pretty agnostic as far as 2-sided, 3-sided, 4-sided. I did hear, though, what David just said. We said also in INO that the 2-sided made sense from the standpoint that no one seems to be looking at it from the street side. They really look at it from either way they're walking towards it, so 2-sided may just be adequate. So I just wanted to see what direction you wanted to get from us this evening.
Any and all feedback would be appreciated. I think really the first bit of information we need is really general size, or, you know, the number of sides, because that will then help us try to locate it within the public right-of-way at that corner in the best way to accommodate other amenities.
Leighton? I'm sorry? Oh, okay. Sorry, it's your hand up.
So, first of all, David, I thought you had just cleaned out your municipal mailbox. I thought that's what all that stack of stuff was. So, I looked through and just jotted down a few notes. I guess there's more than I saw. And so I just want to push back a little bit on, I think there had been a narrative that, what had been portrayed, which was that the paper advertisements on the kiosk were, not of any particular relevance, and it was just junk and not anything that would be of any interest to people. And so I saw all sorts of flyers for emotional well-being, physical, group activities, music lessons, concerts, educational, political, faith activities. And I was thinking about how I was just, mentioned in our discussion with Dr. Eisgruber, the importance of civil society. And I was talking about, the former Soviet bloc, and I was thinking about how they used to communicate through something called samizdat, which were written communications that they passed around, and there was such repression that was how they were able to have some level of freedom of expression. And I'm not saying that we're headed that way in this country, although we'll see. But I'm also not, I just really do feel very strongly that written materials are important. And I think there's a lot of research which points to the ability of the brain to absorb things that are in written form as opposed to electronic form. I would like for young people not just to get their information through electronic media, but also through seeing written things in on paper. And I realize there's an environmental sustainability component to that. But what I saw, and thank you for collecting those, but what I saw were all things that were information that I think are of value and that it's useful for people to have access to see as they go by. And I think it's more valuable to have access to that than the detriment of but then it looking untidy. I do think that is, I do feel like that is part of the character of a university town, as we've said, and many of us have said over the years. However, it doesn't have to be all of the sides. I think, compromise is half electronic, half written. When you described the two-sided structure in the Infrastructure and Operations Committee, it sounded like an ideal solution, especially because, the idea that people are not viewing from the street. But when I saw it in the, in the packet, the aerial, and also saw it on here, I have to say, I, didn't feel the same way as when it was described theoretically, because when you're walking by on the sidewalk, you're just seeing one horizontal, if you're walking right in the sight line, you see it, but it just doesn't have the visual impact of the, I think you could easily walk right by it. So, I do think we should explore possibly, and, it's not a hill I'm going to die on, but if everyone on council feels very strongly about the two-sided, then so be it. But I would welcome maybe a little bit of thought given to something not quite so large, but, but just not just the narrow two-sided, maybe something that's, I don't know, could even be triangular or a little bit smaller in diameter, but still more surface. Okay, those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Leighton.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks for all the work that has been done. When we first had this, maybe a month or two ago, I was pretty much on the side that it's an eyesore. It's got to go. And then guess what? Leighton listens 6 or 8 sessions later. I really heard it. And here's what I heard. I think we're just a little ahead of ourselves. We're talking about design, two-sided, four-sided. I think we need to go back and listen to the public, because young people are all about this digital age. But people my age and a lot younger than me are not for all 100% digital. I heard us say that one side could be kiosk, but I think we're missing an opportunity. We have a very creative brand here. We have creative people here. And what I'm hearing is people want the freedom to put up and take down what they want. This is an important issue for many people in Princeton. And while it might be great for those people, for wayfinders that are coming in and out of town and in and out of town, the people that live here want the freedom to put up something as Mia just referenced. I think we need to slow our roll a little bit and get more feedback from the public to really find out, because maybe the public can help us with a design, something very unique that could be both analog and, digital and analog. Maybe we put the opportunity out there. All I'm saying is people in our community, older people in particular, and people who from the 60s have been around for a while will lose their minds if we don't give them a voice in this decision. I'm telling you, we need to hear from them a little bit more. Thank you.
Thanks, Leighton. Leticia.
Yes, thank you. So I have heard from the public, but I still feel that they are an eyesore. But that doesn't mean that they need to be taken down, that everything needs to go. I think there can be compromise, as we found in the past on other issues where our community is divided on certain issues, and we found compromise. Look at Witherspoon Street. One way, pedestrian only, two-way, and we found the compromise that I think it's working fine. As far as the kiosk, they are nice, or even those examples that we found. If you look at that stack, there's at least four, maybe 5 copies of the same flyer on the same kiosk. We could limit it to just one flyer of a specific flyer, and that would greatly reduce the number of flyers. The compromise for me, maybe I would be 3-sided, and I say this because I also strongly believe I would love to see an electronic version that's for wayfinding. That's something that is, I think it's lacking in our community. That would be very helpful, not just for visitors, but for ourselves when we can't always remember what direction something is. We're trying to describe it, and when we're trying to describe it to someone that's not from here, it can be confusing. So I think it would be a compromise would be to have one side that's electronic, and if we have 2 sides that are for flyers, but again limited to 1 flyer per whatever it is that is being announced. Per kiosk.
Thanks, Leticia.
Yes.
Brian.
Sure, I have one technical question and then an opinion. I know what you're hoping is for guidance, and we may not be doing such a great job in providing it tonight. When is the sidewalk project going to begin, and is it the case that you need to know at least at the Garden Theater site where the location would be so that services could be run before the the masonry work is done? That's the question, and then I'll give you an opinion.
Okay. We anticipate that the earliest construction would be after university graduation. most likely after 4th of July. We are still waiting for permits. We have included a provision for utilities to be run in that area. And so it's more a matter of making a field change with a contractor if the location changes from where it originally is placed on the plans.
So in terms of an opinion, I also would advocate for a compromise. I know digital solutions are more popular, although I've been in cities and towns where they can often feel very sterile and not get used, and hope that that'll be combined with some thinking about other digital resources to navigate town and find out where things are. But I visited the kiosks, and one person's view of what is attractive and somebody else's may differ. And what I saw was community engagement, energy, free speech, and I want very much for us to preserve those values and think that a multi-face, whether it's the maximum of the 6 that you showed that I thought I felt nostalgic. It looked a bit like our 8-sided kiosk, or 3 or 4 where there would be at least 2 or if not more sides for the public to post. I think that would be a nice compromise, and I would be in favor of the continued ability of our residents to put things up there. I also saw you wince. I wonder how easy it would be to police or to regulate the one flyer per, which I think is one of the reasons we take them down once a month and let it kind of renew, which I like. So I'll stop there, but I would just second the idea of a compromise, hope for a multi-face, more than 2, and that there'd be continued community engagement in some form that is more similar to what we do now than different.
Can I just?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just, I think, as I said to you before, Deanna, the 2-sided to me just doesn't seem like quite enough, because there's so much space right now to pin stuff up. I'm not a huge fan of people pinning up 15 of the same thing. I don't understand that logic, especially since they cover up everybody else's stuff, which is pretty disrespectful and not nice. But I think we need something more than the 2-sided, so if it's a 3 or 4-sided, and the 4-sided probably makes a little more sense, and something that is a little reminiscent of what is there now. I think it's a certain style that people kind of expect, and it's, anyway, a little acknowledgement to what was there before, but more modern. I mean, I think the electronic component is important, because if you want to do wayfinding, if, I want to find out where's the tap room versus the A and B, or what's the new place over at the shopping center, or geez, what's that place up on Route 206? I mean, how do I get to any business in town? I'd love to be able to, as a visitor, go to one place and say, yeah, I can push a button here and pretty much figure out where it is I want to go compared to where am I now. So I think that would be an important component. But it's obvious people want to pin stuff up, and unfortunately for, I guess, our public works people, they're going to have to continue to, on some regular basis, go and just rip stuff down and people put more stuff back up. But hopefully we could make it look nicer and find a way to, I don't want to use the word limit, but maybe show people that there's a reasonable amount of stuff to put up, and you don't need to put up way too much. But seeing all that was, I mean, if you just go through this pile and see how much stuff is like 2, 3, or 4 times, I guess we need to put something up there saying, be considerate of others. I don't know. Anyway.
So, yeah, I'd like to summarize. Thank you. I agree with everybody. I think we actually have more consensus than we realize. I mean, I think we all agree that there needs to be an analog, obviously, component where people can still pin things up. And I have to say, in terms of it looking neater, the kiosks are really old. And they have old pins, push pins, staples, paper pin. So they don't look good. So once you have something fresh that's maintained on a monthly basis, I think that you'll see that it'll be a lot cleaner and neater to have the analog component. I think we all agree that an electronic component to it is worth exploring. I mean, I think there's more questions still that we need to answer. But it sounds to me like maybe we're looking at 2 or 3 sides for the analog, and perhaps if we can narrow it to that, to give you a little bit of direction in terms of, and we'd like it to be cute and look like it belongs in Princeton. And if we can agree, at least that would give Deanna some direction and her team. And then the other thing I was just going to suggest is we could put a sign up that says, please, 1 poster per customer. I mean, we could put a little something to try and get people to
Well, you
to
need one of those on
comply.
each side, so we have to put it multiple.
Which side you put it on. What else occurred to me? I had one other thing I was thinking. Oh, and then the other thing, Deanna, if you could tell us what the surface area of the new analogs would be versus what we have currently. And, you know, I think in I&O we discussed doing this at the in front of the Garden Theater. That's where we have the most space. We can consider it a pilot, see how it goes. We can always find other places for others. So yeah, I think that's a bit of consensus. At least that's a summary of what I've gotten from what everyone said, but I'll leave it open.
This has been very helpful, a lot of good feedback. We currently, by my calculation, have about 80 square feet of mounting space. So we'll definitely look at maximizing the analog component, the pin boards where people can put their information up, and recognize that, you know, one portion of it, you know, may very well be the electronic wayfinding component as well. If the public is interested, we're more than willing to, you know, hear from the public. They can send an email to us at engineering@princetonnj.gov, because I know there has been a lot of public dialogue about the kiosks, and as I mentioned, we have a lot of talented design people in town, so they can definitely share ideas with us.
One other idea I wanted to mention too is some kind of weather, it won't be weatherproof, but maybe just kind of something to overhang, because when it really gets messy is when it rains, wind, and that type of thing. So whatever we can do it. And, you know, we can also talk about identifying other places in town where there are analog pin-up places where people can also, you know, have their information.
Yeah, and there's depending on what we see coming out of this new installation as beneficial opportunities, we can also work with private property owners to site these locations elsewhere, like the shopping center, you know, Palmer Square. So we really want this to be the first of many applications. So we want to get this one right and hit the right note with the public. Okay, thank you.
Mia?
Yeah, in terms of location, so definitely it seems to be a consensus, or, you know, as you've conveyed, that the corner, the Witherspoon Nassau corner is really too crowded. I like that we're going to keep a kiosk in front of the garden. There was a lot of feedback that encouraged us to put a kiosk on Heinz Plaza, and I do really think that would be a very appropriate place. That is our, you know, the library is our community's living room, as we often say, and Heinz Plaza is, you know, a place where many people from the area come to gather. It's sort of their you know, where they start for their afternoon in town. Or I also just want to mention, so there was, on the slide, you mentioned exploring the digital component in collaboration with Experience Princeton, and I agree, you know, with Leticia and others who, you know, that it's really important to, you know, be helpful even for those of us who've lived here for a while. The streetscape is changing all the time with new stores, and I think it would be very helpful for everyone to be able to, the wayfinding component would be enormously helpful. That said, and with tremendous respect for Experience Princeton, though, I just want to reiterate that this is municipally owned property, and I don't think it should be a forum for advertising. And so I'm not sure if that was something that was being considered. I would have a lot of questions about that. And finally, I just want to say that I really love living in a town where people care so much about the kiosks. We've gotten months of feedback about the kiosks, and I think it really speaks to the character of our town very highly. So that's it.
Okay, I think we're good enough on kiosks for the moment.
Can I make a comment about the kiosks?
Oh.
Since that's the reason I'm here.
Oh, sorry. Come on up. Do the intro thing again, and
I will.
thank you.
Seth Melman, Adams Drive over in Riverside. So I love the kiosks, and I love the mess, personally. I've lived here for 20 years. I do all 6 sides when I come to town, and sometimes I look at both of them because not always people put certain flyers on one and not on another. And I did a little homework, so you didn't feel like I was totally unprepared. I wanted to see what other towns were doing. So I did a little homework. There's a couple towns in New Jersey that have switched to digital. But they have an input component from the community where they basically submit things online, okay? They have to do it 2 weeks prior. So they have an event coming up, or there's a talk coming up by the school or something. They submit it online 2 weeks prior, and then it goes into someone in town, I don't know how it works, but technically puts that information up so that it appears on the digital readout on the bulletin board as the activities that are occurring. So I did do a little homework, but most of the digital stuff is exactly the same. It's pretty much what you all know. I was very happy to hear that members of the council are happy with putting some paper up, because I think there needs to be an analog component to it. Obviously, that's, I would be happy if it just stayed the way it is, but I understand that that's not going to happen. In terms of the digital aspect and the map, I think, my feeling would be everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, this is incorrect, but 90% people have a cell phone, and they have Google Maps, and they have Apple Maps. And so if they want to know where, the nearest Barnes & Noble is, they can punch that in. I do think it would be good for the town to have a map of the university, stadium, things like that, where certain halls are, where Richardson is, for example, where the McCarter is. I think those things are really valuable, maybe as far as the shopping center, but I think the mapping aspect of it should be pretty tight, should be local, as opposed to what's out on 206 or what's out on Route 1. But I'll just finish by saying I'm very happy that I think there's going to be some kind of compromise with a paper aspect or an analog aspect, because I was expecting something totally different. But my last question would be, how is the decision going to be made? Who makes the decision? Is it strictly up to you guys since it's on municipal property? So in other words, how is the decision going to be made?
I think at the end of the day, it comes back to us.
Okay.
We have to give enough direction to our engineering department that they see there's a consensus on what to do.
Okay, so being that, we're talking after 4th of July or something like that, how do we put it out so that we get a little bit more, so everybody in town knows about it, so at least they can respond to the email? Or how do we get that information out there? Because I'm sure there's lots of people that don't know this is going on. So how do we get that? Obviously, a lot of people do, but how do we get the info out there?
I would imagine, and the engineer, the municipal engineer can correct me, but I would think that maybe you guys will come back with a couple suggestions for us based on the comments we've heard tonight. I think I heard, I wasn't counting, but I think I heard enough people say more than 2 sides. Mm-hmm. I think there might be some consensus about being somewhat reminiscent of what's there. So I think we'll probably come back with some ideas at a future meeting, and there'll be another discussion like this, and hopefully there'll be enough of a consensus in the near future that our engineering department will actually know what to do. because right now it's not clear enough.
Right, but how does the public find out about it?
Well,
Other
the
than
public should be
me?
paying attention to our meetings. I think it'll be, the press that still exists has been covering this topic pretty well, I
Right.
must admit.
Okay,
And I think that what we can make sure too is the next time we're going to talk about it, we can make sure it's in our newsletter before
Right.
it comes up, right? Because
Okay.
there's several thousand people that view the newsletter.
great.
And you could
So-
find a kiosk and put up some flyers.
We'll
How
put a
about
note
that?
on the kiosk, there you go.
That's a good idea. I will do it.
Thanks.
I will do it.
Seth,
Thank you.
Seth, can I ask thank you for doing the research. If you would kindly, if you could share that with
Yeah,
us.
sure.
It'd be really helpful to know, not right now, but if you can reach out to me.
Yeah, I will
because
send you, I made a copy.
that-
I'd be happy to give
or
it to
I'll
you.
take an analog copy as well, or digital. Okay, well, I know how to reach you, so I appreciate your work on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, why don't we get to our 2025 capital budget presentation?
No, it's not up there. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, so what you have before you this evening are 3 bond ordinances that we're going to hold a public hearing on and hopefully get through adoption. There's a parking ordinance that has about $246,000 of improvements for the parking utility, open space improvements for $615,000, and then the multi-purpose, which I'm going to go through each of these slides pretty quickly, but the multi-purpose is about $14 million. And I want to just note that we did meet as a group with all of the departments, with administration, and with David Cohen as the chair of the Finance Committee. We went through all of the capital budgets, and we were able to bring the number down by about $15 million. And the way that we did that was by looking at reserves that we already have on hand that were not used yet, and then just realistically what our expectation is of what we can accomplish in a given year. We always think staff, I know Deanna will wholeheartedly agree that it's great for us when we get these done early in the year because then they have access to the funds a lot quicker. So with that, let me start with police. Their capital requests kind of mimic the same types of things each year. They have in-car cameras and body cameras that they are looking to continue to upgrade, sirens and lights for the police vehicles, and some ALP cameras. Information technology, they're looking to do a replacement on the 911 phone system, and then some minor surveillance cameras, mobile devices, and some handsets for our desk phones. In recreation, once we went through all of the capital requests, the Recreation Community Park South, the rehab, the request for 2025 was actually $10 million. But then Evan, he knew realistically he's not going to look at using that money and moving forward with that project until late in 2025. And so once we were able to make the reductions of $15 million, then we went back and added back in $2.5 million for some of the design work that he may be able to do later this year. And $2.5 million was the number that we came up with, and I think that he's satisfied with that. In addition, they have some vehicles that they're replacing as part of their fleet replacement plan, and then some minor fence repairs and landscape trailer and some recycling cans for our parks. The library, again, this is another department that we see a lot of the similar budget requests from them each year. Technology replacements, although this year is more than most years. Their furniture and equipment, that's something that we see every year from them. And then they wanted to do one of the children's floor furnitures, which was really a newer request. The health department, we are replacing an animal control vehicle. And it's hard to believe, but when it's all equipped, that is actually the price tag for the animal control. In engineering, Deanna has the majority of the bigger projects, which are, always the road projects, the streetscape improvements, stormwater and storm drainage. I know they're working on with some of the new regs that came out of DEP the last couple of years. So she has one of the higher capital budgets, and her requests were a lot. And when we went through them, she brought a lot of them down from what she had originally requested. Sewer operating, this is actually a small year for them. I know it doesn't look small, but usually they have I&I replacement and some sewer infrastructure, and that's usually in the millions. So this request was actually, and these were the only 3 things that they asked for this year. Streets and roads, again, it's mostly vehicle replacement. I think we've been doing a really good job the last couple of years with replacing a lot of the trucks and the dump trucks and the plows, and just kind of moving them forward with some really older equipment that they've had and that they've been using for quite some time. Buildings and grounds, mostly the improvements here are related to Witherspoon Hall, Monument Hall, and I know they did some carpeting replacements last year in the police department, and so we are looking also for doing some building painting in this building. It's probably not been painted since the building renovation, or this building was constructed, and also some parking lot upgrades for this parking lot out here. Fire, their biggest request for this year was for some personal protective equipment, and they had some minor things for radios and fire equipment as well. Emergency services, again, they have the personal protective equipment as well, and they had a request for a drone, which we have, kicked around and kicked down the alley a few years in a row, and it seemed like this was the proper year to move forward with their request. Parking, minor repairs on the interior of the parking garage, some lighting repairs, and cameras at the parking garage as well. And open space, we have some repairs for Quarry Park that we've talked about, some footbridge repairs, there's tree removal, microforest, and these will all be provided for. The funding for these will come out of, when I issue the debt on them, it will come out of the open space budget. And that's kind of a quick overview, but like I mentioned, you do have 3 ordinances that we'll hold the public hearing on this evening, and then hopefully move to for adoption.
Thank you, Sandy. Brian?
Sandy, we have about, if I read the ordinances correctly, about $14 million of bonds that will be issued. I'm just curious how much debt is maturing this year.
Well, the actual authorization, I think, is closer to $11 million. The 14 includes the total of all the projects. We do not have debt falling off this year. As a matter of fact, our debt service increased because I did sell bonds at the end of 2024. So these projects will not be financed, and I won't issue debt on these probably for a couple of years yet. I mean, we're pretty flush with cash right now. So funding for these will not actually hit in terms of our debt service for a couple of years yet.
Okay, just want to flag as a future issue the multi-year capital plan, which I know we have. Do we review that as a full council? I think there's a 6-year.
There is a 6-year plan. Have we done that in a public meeting? I think it's just been a finance.
I think I have, yeah. I think we did go over it kind of briefly. But the numbers are big. I mean, Brian and I met we looked at the 6-year plan really in depth, and some of the numbers are quite significant. And I think, we'll go through the same process of, what can be pushed out for a further year, what's really something essential that we need to do a capital project for. And I mean, we make those tough decisions each year before we bring the ordinances even to council. I know Finance Committee spends a significant amount of time as well.
Yeah, so my 2 observations from that, and thank you for the time you gave me, Sandy, were that the numbers are big, and that it looks like some challenging decisions will need to be made in future years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other comments or questions? Okay, why don't we do the three public hearings and see if there's more questions during that. Ordinance 2025-05, bond ordinance providing for various improvements to the parking utility in and by Princeton in the county of Mercer, New Jersey, appropriating $246,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $246,000 bonds or notes of Princeton to finance the cost thereof. Is there a, David's got the motion, Michelle's got the second. Questions or comments from the council? Michelle?
Well, just to clarify, so the open space goes from to the open space fund, but the repairs to Spring Street Garage come from this, the parking utility, which is, we don't have to bond for it. We're borrowing against monies that we have. So just to clarify, right, Sandy?
Yes, so what we have been doing in the parking utility on the capital projects there, the only debt service that the parking utility has currently, it was for the parking structure. Because the parking utility does so well and it's self-sufficient, we're able to provide the financing for these capital projects as an operating expense. And we have saved significant amount of money by doing that as opposed to issuing debt on these.
Okay. Other questions or comments on this one? Any public comment on this one? Anybody online? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Ms. Peron-Lambros?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Sacks?
Yes.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
Mr. Newland?
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Ordinance 2025-06, bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements for open space purposes in and by Princeton in the county of Mercer, New Jersey, appropriating $615,000. Therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $584,250 bonds or notes of Princeton to finance part of the cost thereof. Is there a motion on that? Thank you, Mia. Is there a second? Thank you, Michelle. Questions or comments by the council? All right, seeing none. Any members of the public? Anybody on Zoom? All right, seeing no questions, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Ms. Peron-Lambros?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Sacks?
Yes.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
Mr. Newland?
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Ordinance 2025-07, bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by Princeton in the county of Mercer, New Jersey, appropriating $14,181,175. Therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $12,694,770 bonds or notes of Princeton to finance part of the cost thereof. Thank you, Leighton. David's got the second. Questions, comments from the council? All right, seeing none. Questions or comments from the public in the room or anybody on Zoom? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Ms. Peron-Lambros?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Sacks?
Yep.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
Mr. Newland?
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Ordinance introductions, we have two. Ordinance 2025-08, an ordinance by the municipality of Princeton concerning fees for zoning permits, and amending Chapter 2 of the Code of the Borough of Princeton, New Jersey, 1974, and Chapter 10B of the Code of the Township of Princeton, New Jersey, 1968. The public hearing would be April 14th, 2025. Is there a motion? Thank you, David has the motion. Michelle has the second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Ms. Peron-Lambros?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Sacks?
Yes.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
Mr. Newland?
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Ordinance 2025-09, an ordinance by the municipality of Princeton regulating speed limits on certain streets and amending Chapter 11 of the Code of the Code of the Township of Princeton, New Jersey, 1968. The public hearing would be April 14th, 2025. Is there David for the motion, Leticia for the second? Roll call vote.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Ms. Peron-Lambros?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Sacks?
Yes.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
Mr. Newland?
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Resolutions, 25109, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton authorizing site license agreements with Crown Castle Fiber LLC for 3 locations, 702 Cherry Hill Road, 139 Mountain Avenue, and 45 Stanley Avenue. Is there Brian's got the motion, Layton's got the second. Questions or comments? None? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
25110, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton authorizing the award of professional services agreement to Aurora and Associates PC for engineering design services for the Stony Brook Culvert Replacement Project for $94,610. Thank you, David, for the motion. Mia's got the second. Questions or comments? I see none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
25111, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton authorizing the award of a contract to Princeton Canoe and Kayak Rental LLC for a license to operate the canoe and kayak rental concession at Turning Basin Park for the 2025-2026 seasons for $58,500. Leticia's got the motion. Layton's got the second. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
25112, resolution of the Mayor and Council for the Municipality of Princeton authorizing Princeton Affordable Housing Program Home Rehabilitation Loans 2025-1 and 2025-2 not to exceed $39,300. David's got the motion. Leticia's got the second. Questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
25113, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton authorizing the award of a contract to All-American Ford of Paramus for 3 2025 Ford Escape vehicles for use by the Building Department for an amount not to exceed $116,584.80, utilizing the New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Alliance contract BC-BID 24-43. And someone would move that. Thank you, Layton. Is there a second? Thank you, Ryan. Questions or comments?
Yes.
Mia?
So, David, a number of years ago, we were looking at our fleet management program and how to cut costs, and I'm just wondering if you what happened with that initiative? And also, if you could, like how often are we, it just seems like a lot of vehicle purchases come to us, and can you place the frequency of these purchases showing up for us to pass in the context of our wanting to cut costs?
So, absolutely. First of all, while we never formally, I don't think, adopted a policy, the point of that effort was to minimize the lifetime cost of ownership, which in many cases actually requires frequent turnover of vehicles, because new vehicles cost a lot less to own than old vehicles with their repair, their poorer fuel economy. So that's the general answer. Is it may seem like we're buying a lot of vehicles, but we may be selling them as well. And as long as we're not increasing the number of vehicles in the fleet, we're working towards the goal that we had talked about some years ago. And Tim Vanette, our fleet manager, is very much on board with that. That all being said, these are vehicles for the building department, which is sort of a different animal altogether, because they're paid for out of the building permits that are received. And and those turn over, I think, even faster, but oftentimes they're handed down to the municipality from the building department and help to refresh the fleet.
So who is minding the store on this? Who gives permission for the new vehicles, and who submits the criteria for justification?
There's a lot of time during the budget process where we sit down with Sandy, we sit down with the department heads, and we are very aggressive in questioning vehicle replacement, and we're very aggressive with Tim who heads the Garage at Public Works about when do we need a vehicle. As David said, exactly how long are we keeping a vehicle? what's the tipping point for where a vehicle starts to cost too much and it's actually more cost effective to replace it. I think even though we don't have anything in writing per se, the whole idea about controlling the size of the fleet, the types of vehicles, we put Tim and Dan through the ringer on that, especially because that's most of the vehicles are public works. But we did that with every department. We did it with the police department. We did it with recreation. So I think that we've been very clear on voicing the concerns that you just voiced,
Okay.
and making sure that everybody understands that we want to have as few vehicles as possible. And but overall, the more important thing is to control the overall cost of the fleet.
Yeah, and the one other thing that I will say is that a lot of the efforts around that were instigated by the INO committee, and fleet management has always been a responsibility of that council committee. Unfortunately, there wasn't room for me on INO this year or last year, so it's not something I've been too actively involved in, but INO should be looking at those issues. And I'm going to use this opportunity to ask Deanna a question, because I know that you had a question for Tim about whether these were electric vehicle, EVs or hybrids or whatnot, and I never saw the answer. It might be in the packet, but could you tell us whether these are EVs or hybrids?
They are plug-in hybrids, so they currently, the building department has plug-in hybrids, and we will be replacing those with new plug-in hybrids. The market and the availability for the EVs, it's not keeping up with demand at this point, and so Tim's done right by what he needs to do to keep our fleet running, and that is going with the plug-in hybrids at this point. And that allows us, as David said, to push those other vehicles down into the fleet, and then hopefully retire some of our gas-only vehicles through the process.
Thanks. And I just want to say I have tremendous confidence in Tim Venata. I mean, it's just we haven't discussed this in a while, and actually it hasn't come up in INO in recent years at all. So I just want to know, that was quite a raised eyebrow, David. Anyway.
Yes.
Who
Who is chairing INO?
So, at any rate, I think it's important for the public to just hear periodically that we're not just approving, vehicles. And so it's good to know this year that this was vetted in the context of the departmental budget discussions, which actually I think is a very appropriate place for it. That's all good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
25-114, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton authorizing the award of a professional services agreement to Greenbaum Rose Smith and Davis LLP for an amount not to exceed $100,000 for legal services related to affordable housing, planning, and redevelopment. Thank you, Mia. Brian's got the second. Questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
25-115, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton authorizing change order number 1 to the Spring Street Parking Garage Repair Program 2023 contract with Marv Waterproofing, Inc. for an increase of $5,900, resulting in a new contract total of $1,115,900. Michelle's got the motion, and Brian's got the second. Questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
25-116, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton authorizing the purchase of an ArcGIS urban online subscription and initial capability deployment and knowledge transfer workshop from Environmental Systems Research Institute, Inc. for $73,514, utilizing New Jersey State Contract 25-TELE-82239. Mia's got the motion. David's got the second. Questions or comments? Michelle?
Can someone just give a brief description of what this is about?
Yeah.
You want to do that?
Do you want to do it? Okay. So this is a program which actually is really useful in the planning world. It has the capability, it's essentially a CAD program that has the capability to model the built environment. And that could mean speculatively imagining what could happen under our current zoning to see what it would look like at build out. It can model what changes in zoning, what impact they might have on the built environment. It'll also be very useful if we start moving towards form-based zoning code, which we hope to do in the future.
Thank you, David.
I just want to say this is something I've been advocating for I think 5 or 6 years since before I was on council, and I'm really thrilled that the capabilities that this will provide for our planning department are essential, and it's been a long wait. I'm not sure why, but I'm just glad that it finally is happening.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah.
I just want to say, I read this pretty carefully. This is one heck of a tool that Justin will be able to put to use. I want to see this in action. This is really something special.
Thank you. Brian, you had a comment also?
Yes, I love the technology that this has. Is this an upfront cost with an annual licensing fee, or is this an annual fee?
This is the,
My sense is that this is more than just the annual fee because it includes the training, which you can see right in the description of the ordinance. But I'm sure there will be some large fraction of this amount that will be the ongoing annual fee.
yeah, I know this is the upfront, and the annual's a lot less, but I forget the number, and there's too many pages here for me to find it real quick, sorry. Other questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
25-117, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton authorizing the award of a bid contract to U.S. Athletic Fields, Inc. for mowing for an amount not to exceed $96,009. Mia's got the motion, Michelle's got the second. Questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 25-118, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton authorizing the award of a bid contract to U.S. Athletic Fields, Inc. for turf management services for an amount not to exceed $19,930.66. Someone would move that. Leighton's got the motion, David's got the second. Questions or comments?
Yes.
Mia?
I thought we didn't, where do we have turf? Did
Not
someone
it's not
secretly
artificial.
install turf?
It's
No.
not artificial turf.
It's like herbicide fertilizer, that kind of turf.
Got it. Just had to ask.
In this case, grass equals turf.
This is a natural turf.
Other questions or comments?
No.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I know there are 13 items on the consent agenda. Could you ask her if she's here to speak to any item on the consent agenda, or? $131, you said? Okay. Can we, if it's all right with everybody, could we take that resolution out of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we're going to do that one next. I just have to read it off. 25-131, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton designating Bernard Hasdovic as the ADA coordinator for the municipality of Princeton. Leighton's got the motion. Thank you very much. Is there a second? Leticia's got the second. Did Rhonda want to make a comment on that? And if you could just name and address, and the 3-minute timer will pop up on the screen.
Name, address, and the time, 3-minute time. Name is Rhonda Abbott. Can use mailing address, P.O. Box 4644, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, 08034. 3 minutes talk. I think you're just adopting a new ADA grievance procedure for the first time, correct? Two more years are going to be even lower. So you recently adopted a new ADA Act grievance procedure, correct?
Yes, that's what we're doing.
Very hard to pronounce Bernard's last name, the township administrator. But if you go through him to make a complaint, not satisfied, then you go to the mayor, correct?
Sure.
You can go to the mayor. You're the mayor.
I am.
So both you and the administrator for the town going to receive training for it. Training on the ADA, will receive training. Finish.
The question is that will you and Bernard also be willing to receive training on the ADA?
Yeah, yes. Well, I can't speak for him, but I would imagine the answer is yes, and I have a lot of experience with ADA regulations, so sure.
He said he already have a lot of experience. But you know, you can't get training certificate. Did your town ever do a self-evaluation plan?
I don't know that we have or have not. Bernie's not here. He's sick tonight, so I can't.
He's sick, so you don't know when he's coming back, right?
Well, next week. I don't know exactly. No, he's sick.
Maybe I just have to file an Oprah, see if they did a self-evaluation plan. But he might want to see this one. It's very good.
Okay.
See, maybe I can be the first person to file an ADA complaint here.
Right.
But
Okay.
you're not really ready yet, right? You're not ready yet, right, to receive complaints?
I'm sorry, I'm not ready to.
Receive complaints.
You're not ready yet to receive complaints?
Well, no, I'd prefer that we let Bernie answer the question. And if she leaves us her contact information, we could reply to her.
I'll be around this week, sorry to say. Stop by the office, maybe a few days, maybe he'll come back. Just see he's ready to receive the complaints. I want to do in-person complaints.
Yeah, so my reply would be she could leave a complaint with us anytime she wants. If she wants us to get her a reply from our administrator, again, if she leaves her contact information, we can let her know when he's back in the office.
Right. You have form to do an ADA complaint, but the people with the disabilities can do an in-person complaint. In person, you
Yeah.
have to set up appointment.
Yeah, she wants to be able to set up an appointment. I'm sorry.
She's asking if doing an in-person complaint would require an appointment.
Well, probably that would make more sense because, I mean, people have other things to do all day, so I don't know that people are just going to drop everything for a complaint to come in.
Right. Make an appointment, right?
That'd be great.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, I know, do on the spot, because to get the interpreter, you have to set up an appointment, I know. You have to find out, wait till you're ready, because you're saying here that ordinance 25-131 to appoint somebody, but you got to finalize it.
Well,
You got to
we're good-
ratify it.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I'm following right. Are we going to finalize this? I mean, the resolution, go ahead, jump in.
Her point is
We are making it right now. So once we vote on it, it'll be done.
It'll be ratified.
Yes, once we vote.
Okay, so I sit down and just wait to see the vote, right?
Yes, yeah, but we wanted to hear her comments before we voted.
My comment is that I think it's great that maybe finally Princeton will have ADA coordinator. Maybe it'll be the first time.
I am not sure. It's possible.
You know, it's a lot more than saying have experience with the ADA. There's technical manuals involved.
Yep.
Hopefully, complaints won't be politicalized or anything like that. That's the starting point.
Right, it is. And we thank her for her interest.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Are we all good with the other items in the consent agenda staying in the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Yep. Letitia's moving the consent agenda. Leighton has the second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is all passed. David,
I move we adjourn.
is there a second? Thank you, Michelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are done. Thank you. Good evening. Have a great night, everybody.